Welcome to American Education FM, everybody. I'm Dr. Sean Brooks.
Welcome back, everybody. This may be a shorter episode here, but we'll see what we can get through. I am recording this, of course, before Donald Trump addresses the nation tonight regarding foreign interference in our elections. Of course, there was domestic interference in our elections as well. It's not just a foreign problem. It was happening here. But with that said, there's a great deal of confirmation hearings, of course, that were taking place this week. And I think what's going to happen, at least I hope it happens in the future, because it hasn't really happened thus far, is that there haven't been confirmation hearings pertaining to election fraud. In these confirmation hearings, of course, you hear the same questions predominantly from Democrats, where they consistently ask a Trump nominee about the 2020 election, and was Joe Biden the lawful president of the United States, and did he win the 2020 election? And of course, they either stay silent on the issue, or they simply say things like, well, he was confirmed by the Senate, so he became the president, and that's essentially where it all ends. They know that he wasn't the lawful president of the United States. I've been over this before. Again, I'm not going to belabor the issue, but that's essentially it. I mean, they know. And I think what people are going to find out here tonight, as I'm, of course, recording this, is that this was a massive foreign problem as well. What I want to see in the future, then, is I want to see full-blown hearings where all of this evidence comes out in all of these Senate and congressional hearings. And again, this is a Judiciary Committee in the Senate kind of hearing, where everybody should be present, no one should avoid it. And again, all of the evidence should be presented, and all of it should come out, that this was in fact stolen. But you also have to make it a domestic problem. This can't end up being one of those things like we always hear in the past, well, let's just make sure that this never happens again. And then everybody just goes back to their corners and they all pretend that a law wasn't broken and that human beings didn't break a law. We don't want to see that in the future. We want arrests. If you have direct evidence, which we know that they do, of individuals engaging in foreign and domestic interference in an election, then there have to be arrests. With that said, regarding his address, again, as I'm recording this here on Thursday, it'll be interesting to see whether or not media outlets don't air it, or they start airing it and then they stop. If they stop and they pull the plug the moment that someone domestically starts to get blamed, then that right there should tell everybody again that the media was in on it. But we already know that the media was in on it. And we don't have to revisit that issue. However, I do want to revisit one old tweet from Donald Trump, where ironically enough, at 7:16 a.m. on June 22nd of 2020, he said the following, again on Twitter: rigged 2020 election. Millions of mail-in ballots will be printed by foreign countries and others. It will be the scandal of our times, unquote. He said that almost 5 months before the election took place. That was one of many tweets from him telling everybody that the election was going to be stolen, and it just so happens that the timestamp is 7:16 a.m., and that, of course, the time of this address is July 16th, 7:16. Coincidence? Maybe. I think unlikely. Again, they let it be stolen. They allowed it to be stolen. We were told it was going to be stolen, and then, of course, everybody had to see it be stolen. Fox News, of course, very famously claimed that Arizona went for Joe Biden very early, and then that was all she wrote. Never happened before. Beyond odd. Again, not a coincidence. So, I want to read this particular post here. Again, this is from Observing Consciousness just the other day. And they said the following here, quote, Operation Warp Speed just met declass, hypersonic clarity. John Solomon is describing the removal of the final shield protecting the intelligence apparatus from prosecution. Classification gave the system more than secrecy. It gave it time. Time to bury evidence inside compartments. Time to force prosecutors through sealed proceedings. Time to keep the public staring at fragments while the architecture remained hidden. Hypersonic clarity collapses that distance. The documents are declassified, the evidence moves directly to the prosecutorial lane. The public sees the same structure prosecutors are building, and every participant inside the machine is forced to calculate how much has already been uncovered. That is where the pressure becomes lethal. One senior insider flips, one person high enough to connect the compartments, and years of isolated scandals suddenly resolve into one coordinated operating system. Russia, FISA, election interference, censorship, laptop suppression, media coordination, investigative obstruction, intelligence operations against the American people. Different rooms inside the same house. Once the rooms are connected, misconduct becomes conspiracy. Conspiracy, of course, being the legal term, multiple people engaging in breaking the law with one another. It goes on, it says Operation Warp Speed compressed years of processing by removing barriers at once. Hypersonic clarity applies the same model to accountability. Declass becomes prosecutorial acceleration. The evidence becomes leverage. The leverage produces testimony, and the testimony climbs the command structure. The speed is the weapon. A slow release gives the system time to coordinate stories, move assets, and rebuild firewalls. A hypersonic release overwhelms its ability to respond. The public sees the record, prosecutors receive the record, defendants confront the record all at once. They survived through fragmentation. Trump is preparing to destroy them through synchronization. Warp speed was the template. Declass is the payload. Miami is the breach point. The first insider flip is the ignition. Hypersonic clarity is the moment the entire hidden architecture becomes visible before the people who built it can escape the light. And here's a clip of John Solomon on Benny Johnson's show back on April 16th saying some of these very things and kind of laying this out, almost like, again, he's part of it here and he has a lot of this information. Give him a listen in 3, 2, 1.
I think we're going to call, I'm going to give a code name. I know the FBI likes code names, so I'm going to make one up today. I think the President of the United States in the next couple of weeks will announce an operation. I would call the code name Hypersonic Clarity. We're going to get a level of transparency in a release and declassification of documents unparalleled in American history. The President's setting up something that I think will be unbelievable. There will be a speed of lightning, a speed of sound to release of documents. And those documents will help this prosecutorial team in Miami that's doing this hard work to not have to do secret proceedings and secret classified proceedings because the documents will be unclassified. The public will have transparency. The prosecutors will have. That will make it easier, I think, for the prosecutors to find the bad guys and sort the good guys from the bad guys out without having to have months and years of secret proceedings, what are called Secrecy Act hearings, which slow everything down. They're going to ungum the trail, and things are going to move quickly. I do think there will be some accountability. There'll never be enough for what we went through the last 12 years. We were deprived of a fair election because of this meddling in these PSYOP operations. We've been kept from information about vulnerabilities in our election system, which I'm going to have some good stories on that next week. But transparency can speed the prosecutorial accountability project. It's something that the deep state did well to keep Bill Barr from achieving before 2020. I don't think this Justice Department is going to fall for that. I think there'll be a speed of disclosure and a speed of prosecution that we didn't see in past years. The grand conspiracy case will be the ultimate thing. Can they make that? To get a grand conspiracy, Benny, you're going to have to do what prosecutors do when they take down a mob boss, right? Remember, they had to flip Sammy the Bull to get the Gambino family. They're going to have to take a capo in this intelligence law enforcement machinery and flip them. And if you get one big name person and you flip them, maybe a deputy FBI director, a senior FBI official, a senior intelligence council official, and you say, hey, we'll make a deal with the devil because you're going to testify up and down. I think they make that conspiracy case in a powerful way, and this begins to change very quickly. So keep an eye. Those are the things I'm watching for as a reporter in the next few weeks.
Wow. Remember, Nicolas Maduro is in United States custody. They, of course, were using Dominion machines. Were they flipping U.S. votes in Venezuela using Dominion machines? Probably. Why wouldn't they? Here's a piece of audio. Again, it's an old piece of audio, but it's, again, about 3 minutes long, almost 4 minutes long. And again, this is one of the presenters, female presenters, I believe, during the Mike Lindell testimonies that were taking place in those presentations that were going on nationwide after the 2020 election, showing clear IP address fraud of the votes of these IP addresses, again, because it was all online, flipping from one country to the next and basically going, again, completely around the world, and then the votes coming back. The same IP addresses then shooting back to the United States during the entire election process itself. Give this a listen in 3, 2, 1.
There are thousands of pages of the documented footprints, the foreign intrusion into our elections. We see this is coming from China, in many cases from Huawei, from Alibaba Cloud Service, from China Unicom, from uCloud, from China Mobile Titong. This also came from Iran as well.
Right.
This is the foreign intrusion. This is the theft of our vote, but it also is documenting exactly the vote totals that were stolen from Donald Trump. What you're watching is that every line on that drawing, all those moving lines, they represent the IP addresses of what I just showed you on the chart. So when you understand the hacker's IP address and the IP address of the target and the votes that were stolen, every one of those lines that you're watching move across the chart and showing whether they were successful and how many votes they stole, that documents that. Every red line, as they turn red, as they finish stealing the vote, basically, the red lines are all China. So what you're seeing are the actual files being received and sent. That's a documentation of the real-time theft of our elections.
Wow.
So every line on the map, there's a corresponding line on the sheet. And the color and the line types represent the severity of the attack. Now, red has been the most severe attacks. Those lines are all coming out of China. Those are the most severe attacks on our election system.
Wow.
Now, this exact information, the same exact type of information, I should say, was presented to former FBI Director James Comey by a whistleblower in 2015. They knew, in fact, that our election machines were open for hacking. It's important to understand that there are prismatic scoring algorithms that they knew about that enter the election and they steal the vote at the transfer points. So at the point where the vote is leaving the Secretary of State's office and these machines, that is the point at which the vote is stolen at the transfer points. That's what you're watching. Those packets moving is that's real-time documentation of the theft of the vote from inside this country, and then the numbers, the last column, those document exactly the numbers of votes. It shows, in some of the cases, Antrim County, where the vote was stolen, and exactly the vote stolen at the exact time stamp of when they were stolen,
Right.
and the numbers stolen at that point.
So, Mary, what you're saying, Hal, is, and this is what I already know, but I'm learning a lot here as we go. What you're saying, every one of these lines, let's say we did take Antrim County, and we took that, we could pull out the timestamps for that county, and we could show the lines, the country that did it. We could show a line for every single hack or attack that we had in this election.
That's right. So what you're watching is those objects moving are the actual files that are being received and sent.
These are the squares here that are being sent. So everybody out there, what you're looking at, I mean, this is the proof.
Again, China has its own deep state also. In fact, most countries do, and as it turns out, it's basically a government within a government. And that shouldn't surprise anybody. Secret societies, you name it, but even so, you have all these intelligence groups as well, three-letter agencies, even Mossad. They work within these governments also. Again, I'll get to the Save America Act stuff too and what transpired this week regarding, again, the National Defense Authorization Act and, the Israeli provision in there for funding. I mentioned it in the last episode, but there was, of course, movement the same day that episode aired which I'll clarify here in a little bit. But the panic with all of this is the point that I want to make, because the panic is real. And as you know, because you've listened to this show long enough, you understand that you can read human behavior and the way that people react to certain things that are upcoming. And how when you tell people and you project what you're going to do, what you're going to say, or what the generality of the presentation that you're about to give is going to essentially expose, you get endless people panicking on the record. And they, of course, expose themselves with their own behavior. So just a few days ago, of course, is when Donald Trump said that he was going to give this presentation on Thursday evening. Normally in the past, certainly in the 1980s, 1990s, there wouldn't be a preemptive discussion or announcement that a presentation was going to be given, again, interrupting your regular scheduled program. Certainly not on TV or the radio or whatever. It would just be, they would just bust into what you were watching and that would be it. But by promoting it in advance, you give the enemy time to expose themselves even more, which they do all of the time, and they take the bait constantly. Instead of just staying quiet and not saying anything about it, they always get on social media, or they take to a Senate congressional hearing, or again, a House committee hearing, or whatever it is, and certainly again, all of the news outlets, and they just start saying, well, what is he going to talk about? He still thinks there's election fraud. There's no election fraud. Well, here's David Axelrod, again, what was this, 3 days ago, on the 14th, on X. David Axelrod being one of the chiefs of staff for Barack Obama. Again, did he know about the election fraud? Of course he did. Why wouldn't he? He said, quote, if at POTUS really touts out Pulti Patel and a crew of political apparatchiks posing as intel experts on Thursday night to announce they've uncovered evidence, quote unquote, of foul play in 2020, it'll only heighten fears that he'll claim an emergency, quote unquote, down the line and claim extraordinary Fed power over elections. If so, and there are plenty of other signs of manipulation brewing, the most important battles of the midterms may be in the courts, unquote. It's total projection. He's telling everybody what could possibly happen here, while also saying it's completely ridiculous to even assume that there was foul play in 2020. But the President of the United States can issue a national emergency regarding elections. He can roll out the National Guard. He can do a lot of things, which he should. And yes, if this means that the Supreme Court takes up all of this evidence and looks at it, or a military tribunal does the same, then you bet your ass he has the right to do it, and he should. Again, here's another example of the panic. This was Senator John Ossoff questioning Jay Clayton, who again is set to be the Director of National Intelligence, and this was his Senate Intelligence Committee confirmation hearing that took place the other day. I want you to hear this entire thing. This is over 6 minutes long, and again, Jay Clayton basically puts it to Ossoff by not answering a lot of these questions because he doesn't have to. Again, Jay Clayton knows that the election was stolen. Senator Ossoff profited directly from that stolen election in Georgia. He and Raphael Warnock didn't win. It was ridiculous to think that they would. This was the Herschel Walker Senate race. There's no way that Ossoff, a guy nobody knew, and Warnock, a guy who was a wife beater, actually won. A known, documented wife beater won those Senate elections. No chance. So yes, it was stolen domestically as well. We know that. But again, here's the panic and here's the proof. In 3, 2, 1.
You have an obligation to be honest and forthright with this committee, correct?
Yes.
And is it the case in the Juan Orlando Hernandez case that the President of the United States pardoned a man who had worked with the Sinaloa cartel to facilitate massive narco trafficking into the United States?
I don't remember the specifics of that case.
He was convicted in your district.
He was convicted.
Yeah.
We convict a lot of people for a lot of drugs.
Convicted of narco trafficking, yes?
I believe so.
No, so at massive scale, yes?
Well, you're telling me what I know. That's kind of, he was, I believe, look, I'll take your word for it. He was a convicted narco trafficker.
Did the President of the United States, Donald J. Trump, pardon a convicted narco trafficker?
I believe we just discussed that. The president provided a pardon. Yes.
Yes or no? Did the President of the United States pardon a convicted narco trafficker?
Yes.
Who won the 2020 election?
I'm not going to do this with you.
This is a job interview. We've established that you have an obligation to be honest and forthright with the committee. Yes, you do have an obligation to be honest and forthright with the committee?
Yes.
Who won the 2020 election?
Like I said, I'm not going to get into that with you.
But you do have an obligation to be honest and forthright with the committee.
Is anything that I just said not honest or forthright?
Yes, you're not being honest or forthright. Who won the 2020 election?
I think I've answered the question. We can keep doing this.
Well, we're going to keep doing it because you're not being honest and forthright.
I'm not going to engage in the theater.
It's a simple question, Mr. Clayton.
And I've answered.
Who won the 2020 presidential election?
I've answered it.
You're here asking for the support of senators to lead America's intelligence community. We've established that you have an obligation to be honest and forthright with this committee and with the American public, but you refuse to answer a simple matter of fact about the 2020 election. Is that right?
No, that's not right.
Then answer the question. Who won the 2020 election?
I have answered the question.
Answer it. What is your answer?
I've given you my answer.
What is your answer? You refuse to answer a basic question about who won a presidential election, but you asked to lead America's intelligence community? Isn't it humiliating to be unable to answer this question, to have to indulge the president's delusions? We know, you know, everybody in this room knows the truthful answer to that question. Why can you not give it?
I think I gave you the answer.
Are you aware that Director Gabbard was present at the Fulton County raid in Georgia earlier this year?
You discussed that with me yesterday in your office.
Are you aware that Director Gabbard was present at the Fulton County raid earlier this year?
You brought it to me. My attention.
What is going on here? You've said at the beginning of this, you have an obligation to be honest and forthright with the committee. I'm asking a very simple question. Are you aware that Director Gabbard was present at the Fulton County raid earlier this year? Yes or no? Are you aware?
I was.
You won't answer that question either.
I just said I was made aware of it by you yesterday.
The first time you learned that Director Gabbard was present at that raid was in my office yesterday?
It was the first time that in my recollection I've thought about it recently. Now, was I aware of it before?
What?
You brought it to my attention yesterday.
Okay.
I had not.
So you had not known.
I had not thought about it until you brought it to my attention yesterday.
Your answers lack credibility. Your testimony lacks credibility. You're being evasive and you're not being candid or forthright. And everybody across the country is going to watch this and know that. Are you aware that former Director Gabbard testified that her presence at the raid was, quote, requested by the president?
I'm not aware of that until now.
Okay, you are now aware of that.
Yeah.
Are you aware that members of this committee are already probing Director Gabbard's potential misconduct in this matter?
No, I don't. I'm not privy to your probe into.
Are you aware that the General Counsel and Deputy General Counsel of your office have already provided testimony to this committee regarding this matter?
No.
If the White House Chief of Staff or the President asks you to travel somewhere across the United States and oversee the execution of a domestic search warrant on a sensitive election facility, will you do it? Is that appropriate? Is that appropriate for the Director of National Intelligence?
That's a hypothetical.
We all know it's not appropriate.
Senator
for
Ossoff, your time is
National
expired.
Intelligence. Will you answer the question?
Your time is expired.
Will you give him the opportunity to answer the question? Is this not material right now, sir? Is it appropriate for the Director of National Intelligence to oversee the execution of domestic search warrants at sensitive election facilities? Yes or no?
I think you're asking me, as you just said in your first comment to me.
Yes or no, is it appropriate?
Look,
no?
You are asking me to comment on a matter that you just said was under investigation.
No, I'm asking you.
Okay, Senator
I'm not gonna
Ossoff, your time is expired.
Disqualifying.
Vice Chairman,
Again, I didn't watch the whole hearing, but I can assume that other Democrat senators asked him the exact same questions. Who won the 2020 election? And of course, he responded the exact same way. I mean, he gets to. He's allowed to say whatever he'd like. He's allowed to even not answer. And he doesn't need Ossoff's support. He doesn't need Democrat support. Everybody knows the vote's going to be a party line vote. He'll either get in or he won't. He probably will. And then that'll be the end of it. But I'll answer the question. Yes, it's appropriate for the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, to oversee election interference in a county in a state in the United States. It's literally her job. But Ossoff's pissed because it's his district. It's his state. And it's him. So yeah, a criminal is going to be upset that a law enforcement officer is in his jurisdiction looking at a crime that he willfully engaged in and allowed to take place with his participation. Yep, he should be panicked. He should be pissed. I'll give his staff a little piece of advice. All those legal aides sitting behind Ossoff should find another job. You can declare a national emergency on elections and throw people out of the United States Senate, Congress, you name it, and overturn an entire election, which again, when Joe Biden's not the president of the United States lawfully, that means Ketanji Brown Jackson on the Supreme Court is going to be kicked out also. She's gone, which leaves the appointment to Trump again. I love it. It halts all Supreme Court action. Everything stops. Everything stalls. You have a new confirmation hearing. I mean, I'm telling you what, this is going to be the storm. It will be the storm, 100%. You're going to have complete and utter media chaos and Washington, D.C. chaos regarding all of this. I pray it happens. I mean, I can see the writing on the wall. It's right here. It's ripe for the picking. It's only a matter of time. But you don't move on it until, of course, the public is made aware formally. And then you can start arresting people. Because again, grand juries would be presented all of this information with the IP addresses, the names of people involved, who benefited, who profited, XYZ, what elections were stolen, and then those grand juries will return results, and that'll be the end of it. But we know again that the individuals who participated in it will scream they did nothing wrong until the day they're dead. Even when they're in jail, they'll be banging on the walls going, I'm innocent, I'm innocent. They're not. If you have President Xi in China openly say, yep, we took in a lot of their IP addresses, we manipulated votes, and there were people over here who did it. It wasn't me, but it was people over in China who did it. Then what? Again, every time that President Trump says that he's friends with President Xi, every time he does that, the deep state has to panic because these guys are working together. Notice it's not Middle Eastern countries, by the way, by and large. I mean, they're all quiet about the business of the stolen election. They were probably monitoring the stolen election as well in 2020. But it was mainly European countries. We know it was Israel, Venezuela potentially, of course, and then China. And probably many others. But there's no way it was just China. We know for a fact it isn't. So, again, the presentation is going to be interesting. If the media cuts it off at any point, that's going to be disappointing, but that'll be telling at the exact same time. And then the very next morning, on Friday morning, if the media doesn't consistently make mention of this and bring this up, then there's a serious problem, which my suggestion to President Trump is come back on television the very next night and do it all over again. Keep presenting all of the individuals who participated in all of this fraud. Just keep doing it. And by the way, he wouldn't be doing it if he didn't have the evidence. He's not shooting from the hip here or pulling something out of his back pocket and going, well, I have a feeling about this. That's not happening at this level. To get to this level, to bring this information to the American public, that means the declass has already taken place. Now it's time for the dissemination of that information for the general public. Whether they want to swallow it or not is their problem. But they're moving forward anyway, because you wouldn't be doing this if you weren't going to make arrests. You wouldn't be doing this if there wasn't going to be accountability. There has to be accountability, or else we don't have a nation. And finally, there has to be a full reversal of what was to what should be, or else we don't have a nation. So with that said, again, there were, let's see here this week, just this week alone, there were approximately, I can count here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, something like 13 Senate hearings and 16 House hearings, all just within the last couple of days. And I believe they seem to be wrapping up here July 16th. But yeah, lots of different people testifying for a variety of different reasons. James O'Keefe, Nick Shirley did. Okay, fine. Lots of fraud. No Democrats showed up. That shouldn't shock anybody. Let's see. I'll get to the CDC director's testimony later, or at least her confirmation hearing. She's suspect. I'll just put it that way. But let me get into some of what happened here with the Save America Act this week, because there's a lot of confusion with it, and rightfully so. Here's Grok's breakdown of what specifically happened. It said no direct floor vote on the full Save America Act. Safeguard American Vote Eligibility, or Save America Act, occurred in the House or Senate this week. The bill passed the House earlier in February of this year, with a vote of roughly 218 to 213 along party lines in one recorded instance, but remains stalled in the Senate due to the 60-vote filibuster threshold. Regarding House activity this week, the main action was a budget resolution blueprint, the fiscal year of 2027, unveiled by House Republicans on July 15th, and this aims to enable a reconciliation package that could include $10 billion for election security measures aligned with Save America Act provisions, proof of citizenship for registration, photo ID requirements, etc., along defense funding and farm aid. The House Budget Committee held or planned a markup of the resolution reported around July 16th, and details on the exact vote total were not immediately available in real-time sources, but such markups typically pass along party lines, Republican majority. Related procedural votes also occurred, with some incorporating or advancing plans to merge the Save America Act elements to must-pass legislation. For example, rules votes often passed narrowly along party lines, for example, 215 to 211 or similar in recent comparable votes, but no full floor passage vote on the SAVE Act or the complete reconciliation package happened this week. The blueprint sets up the future action committees instructed to draft it by September. And then it says again, regarding the Senate, no votes on the Save America Act or direct reconciliation vehicle occurred this week. The Senate has not passed the bill. It lacks the 60 votes needed for cloture amid Democratic opposition. Broader defense NDAA-related procedural activity continued, but nothing specific to a save floor vote. Reconciliation talks for the potential third package, including save elements, are ongoing but not voted on yet. Again, it says this week's developments centered on procedural and preparatory steps, budget blueprint, and committee markup to revive the SAVE Act via reconciliation, bypassing the Senate filibuster. No final passage votes with specific tallies for the core bill happened. The House is driving the push, while the Senate remains the main hurdle. And when it came to the Israeli influence, of course, with our military and vice versa, and sort of the combination of both regarding particular assets of intelligence and XYZ, and of course funding. Apparently some of the funding is new, which is remarkably unfortunate. Massey gave a nice speech on the House floor openly saying, hey, look, we shouldn't be giving them any more money. We have infrastructure problems here at home. There's absolutely no reason why we should be doing this, XYZ. I believe it ended up passing the House, but it didn't pass the Senate. So now there's individuals, again, trying to throw that into the Save America Act as well, combine the two to some extent, but I don't know. It's a big confusing game, I fully admit it. Either way, I'm not for the Israeli funding by any stretch. That's my personal opinion. I don't think it's necessary, unless, of course, there is another angle to it, which means that we control what they do. If we're in charge of the funding and we're in charge of what they get and we're in charge of what they hear, then of course we have better control over them. But again, they're the enemy. And I think our government fully understands that. There's an optics game always being played. Of course, where every politician is saying, I stand in defense of our greatest ally, Israel. Well, they clearly aren't. And everybody knows that, which again brings up serious conversations and serious debate about sovereignty. The simple fact that we would do such a thing. Even Compost Duffy, I forget her first name, Rachel Compost Duffy, there you go, the Fox and Friends weekend host, when they were talking with Netanyahu, at the very end of the interview, when she cut it off, she openly said, well, thank you for joining us. It raises serious concerns about United States sovereignty, but thank you for being here. And then that was the end of the interview. And she's right. And I'm glad that she said that, because it's true. Now, I want to move on domestically again, also here just very quickly, more specifically in the state of Ohio. Just a couple of things real quickly, just, a few observations. Number one, if you turn on television and you watch the commercials, of course, and it's even on YouTube because they have your location services, even if they're, of course, turned off, they know where you live because of your IP address. So they're bashing you with all of these Amy Acton commercials. And, of course, criticizing Amy Acton on a regular basis, and rightfully so, because she's a pilled-up wino running for governor. But then you rarely ever see any Vivek Ramaswamy ads. Apparently, Vivek Ramaswamy has completely run through his campaign, whatever, his whole purse. Millions and millions of dollars he's just burned already. It's all gone. Except for, again, a lot of these outside NGOs, again, bashing Amy Acton, and rightfully so, because both of these candidates are beyond terrible. But apparently, Elon Musk has donated $5 million, allegedly, to Vivek Ramaswamy. I'm sure he'll burn that money as well. He's clearly not very good with it. Again, gives a few speeches, but you don't see a lot of these commercials, again, supporting Vivek Ramaswamy, and here's what I'm going to do for Ohio and XYZ. It's pretty boring, and again, I'm just not going to vote because I don't like either one of them. I think they're both trash. So that's my take, but I understand people might get upset about that and say, well, you should vote and vote for the lesser of two evils. I can't do it. I just can't. They're both awful. But again, just wanted to make mention of that real quick because, again, things are rather quiet in that regard. Even Casey Putsch, of course, who ran for governor here in Ohio, who I voted for, he's rather quiet on a lot of these issues as well, focusing on his family, and again, rightfully so. But I hope he gets back out there someday and runs again. He took a nice chunk out of the American vote here in the state of Ohio, certainly in the gubernatorial race, and he woke up a lot of people as well, and that can't be understated. That's remarkably important, and that's a very good thing. So yeah, there you go. Okay, education things. Just two things real quick. Quick little story. My parents were at an auction, and yes, this is education related, believe it or not, but they were at an auction in Indiana, just over the border here, very rural area as well, gorgeous land. And they ended up purchasing a couple of wash stations, just low to the ground cabinets that are, again, very good looking. And as they were taking it apart and cleaning it up, they found a couple of 3x5 index cards in them. And they were handwritten, assumingly by a female, and in red pen, and they were, of course, stained because they were old. And it appeared to be a school teacher who was teaching a parent about a lesson on how to teach their child to count and add and subtract using coins. And it was, again, 2 3x5 cards that were handwritten in red pen on both sides, and on the back it was signed Mrs. Shoup. Now, that's the name of my kindergarten and first grade school teacher, who has since passed, who was, again, a very good person and a very good teacher. I just find it interesting that 3x5 cards would find their way into a piece of furniture that my parents would acquire, and of course we knew her very well. And yeah, rather interesting. So, little nod to Mrs. Shoup out there, up there in education heaven, but yeah, I thought that was kind of neat. But either way, with that aside, you also have this, which is not neat. And this, of course, is one of those things where they consistently, as I've brought up on the show before, rename particular issues, and NGOs, of course, rename particular things when their old perverse names get out of touch or get overused and people don't like them, such as, of course, diversity, equity, and inclusion. But diversity, equity, and inclusion is going to be one of those things that's going to constantly be renamed, and there happens to be a new name for it. Again, a lot of people may not be aware of this, and they're probably not even using it right now. Or then again, maybe this is buried deep within education policy, certainly at the K-12 level, but it's an acronym called BRIDGE, B-R-I-D-G-E, and it stands for Belonging, Representation, Inclusion, Diversity, Growth, and Equity. That's right. They have to just put every letter of the alphabet in an acronym and then make it count for something, a feeling, an emotion, whatever, because these are not smart people. So here's a little background on Bridge. It is wearebridge.com is the first independent trade group, a member-driven 501c6 nonprofit dedicated to the global marketing industry with a focus on turning inclusion into measurable business growth. It partners with brands, agencies, media companies, technology providers, and other organizations to embed inclusion across workplace culture, workforce practices, and marketplace strategies. Summarize it real quick. Don't hire white people. There you go. They're not going to say that's their mission statement or their vision statement, but that's what it is. Let's not hire white conservative males or white conservative females. Let's hire individuals, again, who are brown, disgusting, overweight, or individuals that we can manipulate and will just do what we want them to do. That's essentially what it means. Now, regarding their acronym and all those names, it says its name emphasizes transforming inclusion from a siloed or performative initiative into a shared enterprise-wide capability that drives performance, innovation, and long-term competitive advantage. The organization helps companies bridge the gaps that create inequities for underrepresented and untapped communities in the workplace, workforce, and marketplace. That's directly from their website. Founded in 2021 by Cheryl Deja, former Chief Strategy Officer at MMA Global, and officially launched on April 19th of 2022, it positions itself as the only independent DEI-focused trade organization serving the global marketing, media, and advertising sectors. It says at launch, it announced a founding board of directors comprising senior DEI, marketing, and business leaders from companies such as Discover Financial, NBC Universal, Unilever, I'm not sure, IBM, Watson Advertising, Salesforce, Group M, and others. It says the organization has grown into a purpose-driven community that provides research frameworks, education, events, and collaborative platforms to move DEI efforts from philosophy to operational business practice. Brainwashing. That's it. It's just brainwashing. We have to move it from a philosophy to, you have to do this or else. You have to believe what we believe or else. You have to want to mutilate children and accept in anybody, regardless of how retarded they are and where they come from, whether they've broken the law, they're an illegal alien or not. And if you don't believe what we believe, then you're the problem. Side note, real quick. I don't think I've brought this up before, but I have a cousin. And a cousin of mine went head deep into the whole gay agenda. Long time ago. As I've said before, it's apparently one of these things where if you have a family member who's gay, or something along those lines, that apparently qualifies you for all things gay. Again, it takes no qualifications apparently, but whatever. They graduated from Miami University just before I did, I believe, or just after me, one of the two. with a degree in journalism. They ended up writing for gay magazines in Columbus, Ohio, and now they are the DEI, whatever it is, director of the Zahner Blaser publishing company, which is the publishing company which is also based out of Columbus, Ohio, and they have a Columbus, Ohio branch that publishes the Highlights magazine, that children's magazine, where you do image hunts and word hunts and all that other stuff. They also, of course, create instructional curriculum for children. So that entire publishing company just injects all of its stuff with gay material to normalize all of those perversions. And it just so happens that a cousin of mine is the DEI head of that particular branch in Columbus. She's literally antithetical to everything that I do and say. It's incredible, which again means when it comes to morality, we can't both be right. Someone's on the wrong end of all of that, and I think we know who. But anyway, getting back to the bridge nonsense, its core mission is to help member organizations operationalize inclusion as a driver of business growth rather than treating it as a compliance or reputational exercise. It focuses on identifying and dismantling systemic structures that perpetuate inequalities, while aligning workplace culture with marketplace impact. Translation: don't hire white people and make sure that the other marketplace that you're dealing with doesn't hire conservative white people. If you don't agree with the mutilation of children, we can't hire you. If you don't agree with hiring illegal aliens or anybody who has a gay perversion, we can't hire you. You have to be a full-blown communist, or we can't hire you. Now here's their programs and initiatives. There's approximately, 6 of them. And as you would expect, it embeds itself right into the education business. The first one, which is actually trademarked, the Bridge System for Inclusive Growth. It says the overarching framework for embedding inclusion into business systems that drive performance and innovation. That's a whole lot of jargon and a whole lot of nothing. The next one, IMAX. Oh, look, another acronym. Inclusive Market Advantage Index. Because we can't have enough acronyms, can we? A breakthrough assessment and capability building framework grounded in 150 plus enterprise business practices. It helps organizations evaluate inclusion maturity across critical, domains and translate efforts into measurable marketplace advantage and outcomes, which means compliance. That's their compliance department. You are hiring communists who are gay, aren't you? They're not white, are they? Check mark, check mark, check mark, and then they move on. Again, it's disgusting. It's communism, ladies and gentlemen. Everybody has to be the same. We all have to be gay and perverse and brown, because if you're not, again, you're not included. We don't want to be included in this. That's the whole point. We aren't interested in your games. The next one, Bridge Academy, or Edge Academy as they call it. Certified learning experiences and educational programs developed in partnership with leading academics and industry experts. These equip DEI leaders, marketers, and business executives to integrate inclusion into strategy, execution, and results. Jargon and a whole lot of nothing. But they're going to brainwash children, that's the point. And you have to brainwash the adults first. That's the key point. The next one is Bridge Forward, a weekly policy that leadership briefing and delivers real-time insights and actionable guidance on legal developments, executive orders, proxy trends, public sentiment, and reputational risks. Again, it's a compliance department to make sure that they're following the law, but skirting the law at the same time. Discriminating, but not discriminating. But we know they're discriminating. The next one is events and summits, annual flagship events such as Bridge 2023, pioneering DEI next practices, and upcoming gatherings like Bridge 26. These include workshops, data-driven sessions, and peer collaboration. The organization also runs storytelling workshops, action groups, and community calls. I bet that conference is a living nightmare. I'm telling you what, the pink hair at that conference and the body mass index at that conference is just, it has to be over flipping whelming. The childlessness, the divorce, the gayness, it's just, and the food. Can you imagine the food spread there? I bet you can't find a steak for miles, let alone a good time. The last one, research action groups and committees. Proprietary research, which is, for example, Voices of Inclusion. Program development committees and collaborative groups that help shape industry standards and close structural gaps. And by closing structural gaps, of course, the gaps are, of course, white people. Anybody who happens to be a white, married Christian with a family, with a good idea, with their head on straight, who knows how to dress and smells clean. These are not the people they're interested in. And they, of course, have numerous departments to make sure that those are the people who are never chosen for particular things. That's communism, ladies and gentlemen, in a nutshell. Now, speaking of, well, I would say suspect hires, this is the last section of this episode that I want to spend some time on, the CDC director. This is a black woman who is pretending to be Jewish, and I don't quite understand the pick. I brought it up a long time ago on the show, don't expect people to remember, but this is a Dr. Erica G. Schwartz, MD, JD, MPH, the medical doctor-lawyer combination. Always a suspect one like Dr. Simone Gold. It says here that she is a physician specializing in preventative occupational medicine with extensive leadership experience in military and federal public health, i.e., she's shot crazy. She's a vaccine pusher like nobody's business. Everybody's called her out on it. And she's wrong on copious amounts of things. And as you'll hear, she even testified that mRNA technology is successful. Joke's on her, it's a murder weapon, and we know that. So here's the thing with the CDC director position. And of course, the art of the deal at the same time. You hire people to fire them. That's the art of the deal. You hire them to expose them. That's also the art of war. Then they come out in the sunshine. Everybody sees them. And then that's the end of it. You have, again, a black woman who's married to a Jewish guy. And she's wearing the Star of Remphan necklace. Out in the open, visible, by the way, during the entire confirmation hearing. This woman will be confirmed. The question will become, when she's in the position, what does she do when she's in the position, and who is she willing to listen to? I understand, again, that some of it might be just general optics, and that you get this person into the position, and then, of course, they can do some change on the real inside, being directed by people who are more knowledgeable than her. But if she throws up any roadblocks, certainly when it comes to getting rid of vaccine schedules and XYZ, RFK can't fire her, but Donald Trump can. And RFK can suggest that she be cut loose to the President of the United States, because I don't see the President ever getting rid of RFK Jr. Again, just like the previous pick, who didn't last very long, the Susan Monarez, I believe her name was. She was the former director, and RFK was like, you gotta go. Because you're pushing vaccines, and you're keeping people around who are pro-vaccine, and we have a problem here. And she refused to budge and do what she was told, and then RFK Jr. told the White House, we gotta get rid of her, and then that's what happened. So, yeah. Time will tell with this one, but let's play some audio from her hearing, Because, again, she sounds odd. This one sounds like a jabbed-up robot. And, again, she was former military, so to an extent, we know she's willing to basically do whatever she's told, so she seems to think. But, again, it just seems really dirty to me, because the CDC's just dirty through and through. But the first clip I want to play here is Bill Cassidy. He, of course, the outgoing senator from North Carolina who lost his primary race. He, too, is a former doctor and has jabbed God knows how many children and killed God knows how many people. He's pro-vaccination because, of course, he doesn't want to believe that the thing he's been doing his whole life has been killing people. So here's him, again, questioning the nominee, Dr. Schwartz, not Jewish, but pretending to be, in 3, 2, 1.
Your predecessor was let go because she would not make decisions that she felt she was instructed to make, that she felt were going to be bad for public health. She did not have the ability to demote or reassign people. And she objected to decisions, and because of that, according to her, was brought in and browbeaten and eventually let go. What commitment, one, will you commit to this committee and to the American people to have the same integrity as she, that if it asks to do something which is wrong for public health, that you will stand up as she did, object, if necessary, publicly?
Chairman, thank you for the question and thank you for meeting with me earlier. The one thing that I can tell you is how I lead and how I live. And I have lived and I have led by my integrity. I have spent over 25 years in the uniformed services leading by integrity. That is what I can commit to you and to the committee, that I will continue to live and lead by my integrity. You are a physician, I'm a physician. We both took the Hippocratic Oath. For me, the Hippocratic Oath meant that I would never harm my patients. Their health and well-being took primacy. If I'm confirmed as a CDC director, the nation's health and well-being will take primacy, and I will never compromise on that.
Now, we know that the Secretary has put people at the CDC who are there basically to look for evidence, however they can find it in fishing expeditions of how vaccines may cause problems. They can't find it, but they keep on doing it. Now, have you been told that you will have the ability to reassign people who are being counterproductive in terms of promoting trust in public health measures, which have been shown time and time again to be safe?
Chairman, I am sitting here because the president nominated me and the secretary and I've had conversations. And those conversations were about my background. The fact that I spent 25 years.
I have limited time. This is almost a yes and no. Will you have the ability to reassign, demote, get rid of people who are harmful to our public health venture based upon the scientific knowledge that is generally known, because the unwavering scientific integrity, as you say, with evidence-based and free from political science, not betraying science, standing on science, speaking the truth, even in difficult moments? Will you have the ability to do that with free of political interference?
Chairman, the secretary absolutely will allow me to be the CDC director. That is why I'm sitting here before you. The
yes,
secretary knows
that I almost feel like I'm having to go after this question a little bit more firmly than I feel like I should. You can be CDC director and just take orders. We need a CDC director that will actually stand up to crazy, stupid things being said that undermine faith in immunization. Are you the person, and I'm being very direct here, because obviously I feel like we've got thousands of kids hospitalized because people have promoted that immunization is bad, and now kids have died because of it. It is evil to do that, and people persist. You are the bulwark. So I'm asking, will you have the ability and the firmness to stand up to that political meddling, to say, no, that's wrong, and this is right?
Chairman, you have my assurances that I will continue to lead by my integrity. I will never compromise on the science. I will always have the public's health in mind. I have spent over 25 years making sure that my
That's not quite the direct answer I'm hoping for. I'm just saying that. And I know you've been through a murder board. One more time. I believe you're a woman of integrity. I accept that. But will you have the ability to say no to junk science and to say yes to that which has been firmly established? and to stick up for what is actually right and true, as opposed to that which is superstition and prejudice.
Chairman, I've always stood up for what is right and what is true, and I believe that I will continue to do that. You have my assurances that I will do that. I will never betray the science, ever. I will go where the science leads us. I will not have predetermined answers to conclusions. I will make sure that the CDC is focused on scientific rigor, that the CDC is focused on radical transparency, as we discussed in your office, and that the CDC, which is the most important thing to regain public trust, is that we lead with humility. There is an arrogance that...
Excuse me, because I'm almost out of time. Radical transparency includes if somebody puts people beneath you or above you or around you and will not let you remove them, but they are doing wrong things at the CDC, pursuing an agenda harmful to America's public health. And we've seen evidence of that. It's not a theoretical. How will you handle that situation?
Chairman, I am not obviously there at the CDC, but you have my assurances that if I am confirmed as a CDC director, I will work with the team, the principal deputy director, Sean Slavinsky, who's already on the ground, and the deputy director, the chief medical officer, Dr. Jennifer Shuford, to have those conversations. And if there's something that comes up that is concerning, you have my assurances that I will answer any questions that this committee has regarding exactly what you just mentioned.
Again, Cassidy's the worst. He's the worst. I just hate him so much. Again, he calls everybody a quack who's anti-vax. We're not anti-vax. We are, but the truth is on our side. He's asking her openly to deny the fact that lying exists. That if you come across evidence that shows that vaccination hurts people, that you'll ignore it. Well, that would be a violation of your Hippocratic oath. So that's really what he's asking. Are you willing to violate your Hippocratic oath? And of course, time will tell with this one. I'm not putting my trust in this gal, not in the slightest. But even so, for him to openly get angry and grit his teeth and say, thousands of kids are dead because they didn't get vaccinated. That's the biggest crock of shit I've ever heard in my life. And if anybody believes that story, that the only ones that get sick in school are the ones who aren't vaccinated, and it's the non-vaccinated that make all other people sick, it's inverted. And it really is that simple. It's just inverted. It's the jabbed who get sick because it's poison that they've injected themselves with. It's the jabbed who make the unjabbed sick, along with the jabbed sick, because they're shedding on one another. The shedding period from a flu shot can last over 2 weeks. Don't even get me started on the COVID bioweapon. God knows how long that shedding lasts. I mean, hell, regarding the flu shot, it says it on the package insert. It says it literally in the directions of the flu shot, that they will shed on people and make them ill, and you will get ill when you take it. Well, easy, Sean, that's just an immune response, and it's your body getting stronger. No, it isn't. It's the effects of you being poisoned. That's what it is. Now here's Bernie Sanders, and this will be the last piece of audio I play because I could keep playing the entire hearing, but what's the point? Here's Bernie Sanders again for about 5 minutes. And yeah, more vaccine and autism questions in 3, 2, 1.
Senator Sanders.
Thank you. Dr. Schwartz, thank you very much for your service over the years. According to the American Medical Association, which represents over 270,000 doctors, quote, an abundance of evidence from decades of scientific studies shows no link between vaccines and autism, end quote. In fact, there have been more than 40 scientific studies in 7 countries involving over 5 million people, finding that there is no link between vaccines and autism. And yet, today, the CDC has published false information on its website suggesting that childhood vaccines cause autism. Dr. Schwartz, do you agree the existing scientific evidence shows vaccines do not cause autism? If confirmed, will you commit to removing information on the CDC website suggesting a link between vaccines and autism?
Senator, we do not know what causes autism. 1 in 33 children have a diagnosis of autism spectrum disorder, and we owe it to the American people to figure out why. The president has asked Secretary Kennedy to find out what is causing.
I don't have a lot of time, and we all want to find the cause of autism. The evidence is overwhelming that vaccines do not cause autism. Do you accept that evidence?
I do accept that evidence, Senator.
If confirmed, will you commit to removing information on the CDC website suggesting a link between vaccines and autism?
If confirmed, Senator, you have my commitment that I will look at that exact website. I have not seen that. I will speak with the secretary to understand why.
But the secretary has put that stuff up there. What I'm asking you is, will you remove information which suggests a link between vaccines and autism?
Senator, I have been in many situations where I have had to go to my superiors in the military to have conversations, very difficult conversations about things that may not have been that may have been concerning to the troops or to the military personnel. And I will do the same with the secretary. I will go to the secretary.
Sorry to interrupt. I just have a brief amount of time. In August of last year, Secretary Kennedy's chief of staff sent an email to the previous CDC director demanding that, quote, CDC political leadership all have eyes on the decisions for approval changes before they go into effect, make America great, end quote. Within days, the CDC director was fired for failing to approve Secretary Kennedy's anti-vaccine agenda. Dr. Schwartz, if confirmed, will you commit that you will report to Congress if you receive directives from Secretary Kennedy or any other individual in the Trump administration to implement policies that are unscientific and could harm the health and well-being of the American people?
Senator, I do not believe that the president or the secretary would ever do what you just mentioned.
Really? Do you think that is the record? He would not do that? Is that what you're saying?
Senator, that I do not think that the secretary or the president would ask me to do something like that.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Kaufman, in 2022, you said that, quote, you would rather perish, end quote, than have any of your 3 children, quote, receive an injection of the COVID vaccine where the risks soundly outweigh the benefits gained, end quote. Is that a true statement?
Yes, it is, Senator.
And yet in 2021, President Trump called the COVID vaccine, quote, one of the greatest achievements of mankind, end quote. I don't usually agree with President Trump, but it certainly was a great achievement. So who's right? Were you right, or was President Trump right?
Senator, I think we are both right. If I may explain that, because I think there have been several things, and Chairman Cassidy alluded to it earlier, that have been mischaracterized. My children, thank God, are young and healthy. And right before that post, I had taken them to a Kroger, looked at antibodies, and they were all antibody positive for COVID-19. And the risk-benefit equation for my children didn't exist. However, and this is very important, and I want to mention Trish Lawrence. Trish Lawrence is my wife's mom, who recently passed away from PLS. She had a condition, a very serious condition during COVID. And I recommended not only for Trish Lawrence, but her husband, Frank Lawrence, to get the COVID-19 vaccine because it was very appropriate in that circumstance. I believe 100% that vaccines are safe and effective, and that we should have conversations with our physicians to make a determination on which and what is the best risk-benefit equation for that patient.
The second guy you heard there was a Dr. Sean Kaufman. He apparently is Trump's nominee for Assistant Secretary for Preparedness and Response at the Department of Health and Human Services. They both testified at the exact same time. The CDC potential director there, Dr. Schwartz, also. I didn't mind her answer there. It was fine. Not telling Bernie straight up that autism is caused by vaccinations, which clearly it is. You take 2 children in for their shots. They're not autistic. They get injected and then they go home, and 2 days later they're autistic. Well, they cause autism. It wasn't the hamburger that they had on the ride home that did it. It was the injections. So, she was being vague because she has to be. At the exact same time, Kaufman's answer was disappointing because he clearly, saved his children's lives while killing others. That's terrible, including his own family members. His mother-in-law, specifically, told her to get injected, and then, of course, now she's dead. I mean, hello? And then died of a condition that apparently she had previously. See, that's where the whole COVID lie really took a turn. Individuals who had quote-unquote pre-existing conditions. Every doctor, and I'm using huge finger quotes on all of that, every doctor was telling all of their patients to get injected. Didn't matter what you had. Do you have a history of this? Well, you'd better take the COVID shot. Do you have diabetes? You'd better take the COVID shot. Does your elbow hurt? Then you'd better take the COVID shot. It didn't matter what condition or the range of severity. They wanted everybody with some pre-existing condition or if you were on medication or whatever to get the COVID shot. We all remember that, don't you? Can't get the COVID, or you can't get cancer surgery unless you get the COVID shot first. Joke's on everybody. COVID shot causes cancer. Can't get that transplant unless you get the COVID shot. Joke's on you. You didn't make it to transplant day because you're dead from the COVID shot. Endless stories of this still happening today. All of these people, again, are running face first into the truth that is unavoidable. It's that immovable wall that you can never break through. It just sits there, and these people are moving 1,000 miles an hour right at it. And you can hear the panic in these senators' voices also, certainly the ones who've been pushing the shots this entire time. Thank God Bill Cassidy lost his primary. He's a flipping psycho. Bernie Sanders is too. We know that. But again, when the Kaufman doctor was talking about how he took his kids to Kroger's, tested their antibodies, and it didn't show that they had, or it showed rather that they already had COVID antibodies. You talk about a fairy tale. You talk about pure science fiction. Emphasis on the word fiction. It was that. There's no such thing as COVID antibodies because COVID doesn't exist. There's no test for it. You can't test for something that doesn't exist. It's just a lie on top of a lie on top of a lie, which leads to more lies, and then it's just remarkably deadly. There's no way around it. If you believe that many lies and you fall for the action that is forced, rather, to accompany those lies, you're not going to make it. You're just not going to make it. It's like telling a child, go into the woods over there in the dark. Nothing bad is going to happen, we promise. And then the kid gets killed, and then the people who told the kid to go into the woods at night, that nothing bad is going to happen, they say, well, it wasn't nighttime's fault, and it wasn't the woods, and yeah, we don't know what's in the woods, but whatever, don't pay attention to that. But we know that it wasn't our fault. And then, of course, they just don't acknowledge the child. Because that's the easiest thing for them to do, is not acknowledge the individuals who are dead as a result of the things that they were telling them to do. It's exhausting, but it isn't going to stop. Words are one thing, action is something else. We'll see what ends up happening with these two individuals when it comes to all vaccination and their actions on it. So, saying one thing to get confirmed is one thing, but once they get the job, they'd better ramp up the anti-vax stuff big time, because that's the truth. We have to become an anti-medicine, anti-pharmaceutical country. We can do that again. We've been there before. Again, the remedies for everything that exists already exist. They're already out there. We just have to build a system that is a nationwide system that leans toward finding those natural remedies. And the easiest natural remedy, I should say, is not taking pharmaceutical drugs. It's the easiest one. And then, of course, the next easiest one is to not take pharmaceutical drugs for the pharmaceutical drugs that you take and the symptoms that you get as a result of those pharmaceutical drugs. Some are necessary and unavoidable. Fully understand that. some are unnecessary and avoidable. But we have to get the entire country to understand that we've been deceived and lied to. That's chipping away at a giant tree, but I'm here for it, and I know you are too. So welcome aboard, and let's keep doing it. With that said, ladies and gentlemen, have a great weekend. Tune in, of course, to the Thursday night thing. That should be interesting with Donald Trump and the election fraud, and I'll bring you that information as well and my take on that on Monday. With that said, have a great weekend. Peace.
Thank you for listening to American Education FM. Make sure and check out AmericanEducationFM.com for more information. Take care and God bless.